In less than 3 weeks, be it in person or through mail, most registered voters in the United States would have already casted their votes for the presidential hopeful. The bigger question is, who is the lesser of the two evils, Biden or Trump? As an outsider, it is important to understand how the US policies is played from a global perspective. As a Hong Kong person, it is of paramount importance to know the implications of what a potential Biden victory would mean to Hong Kong. Or if Trump wins, will his administration push harder to the benefit of Hong Kong people? We as Hong Kongers are definitely stuck in the middle between the China and US Cold War, and our fate is under siege. Borrow the famous punchline by former President Jiang Zemin of China. Of too simple, sometimes naive. Maybe it is too simplistic for outsiders to fully appreciate the largest organized gang of the 21st century and how they really operate. Being a Hong Konger, I have come to a conclusion that it is important to understand both the US and the Communist China systems in order to survive under the most challenging environment, especially after the enactment of the national security law. The rule of law is under attack with the NSL in Hong Kong, and we have lost our human rights and basic individual freedoms under this new rule. And now back to the American side with a slight twist in context. The US is still the center of the universe, and I mean from the perspective of the market capitalization of stocks being traded, with the New York Stock Exchange and the Nasdaq still rank number 1 and 2 globally. But the US is more than just financial markets. A lot of people have dreamed to be part of the American dream. Whatever that means, it is up to one's interpretation. Some of the greatest inventions are made in America. Apple is one great product. So is the electric car Tesla. Netflix provides affordable online streaming entertainment. And for Google, it gives you great convenience for searching and communications. Some of the strong American brands have been around for over a century and low-tech in nature. Harley-Davidson, 1903 until the present time. The motorcycles is one of those low-tech strong brands. I ride the Harley-Davidson motorcycle in Hong Kong, and I do appreciate what freedom of the open road means to motorcycle riders in its symbolic meaning, freedom and democracy. During the Lehman Brothers inflicted global financial crisis that took place in September 2008, the US stock market regressed to a low point. Barack Obama swore in as the 47th President of the United States on January 20th, 2009. Obama's campaign slogan in 2008 was hope, and the stock market was on the long trend of recovery mode, edging higher in choppy sessions throughout his presidency. Joe Biden, in all fairness, tagged along well as the US Vice President as a career politician. As I alluded to earlier, I place close attention to how the US market works, and even more attention to what Ben Bernanke and Janet Yellen had to say at the time, as they were former Federal Reserve Bank chairs back to back, while Barack Obama was president and Joe Biden as vice president, respectively, of the United States during the time of the global financial crisis. So back to the million-dollar question, Biden or Trump? Joe Biden has been a career politician, and definitely there is less unpredictability. Former Vice President Joe Biden made a claim a few weeks ago that if he wins the US presidential election, he would take the initiative to visit the Dalai Lama. The spiritual leader of the Tibetan government in exile was forced to leave Tibet with 60,000 Tibetans in 1959, and the Dalai Lama hasn't returned home for more than 60 years. Even during the Obama-Biden era, from 2009 to 2017, being an important actor in the most powerful team, Joe Biden could have ample opportunity to speak up on the human rights conditions of Tibet and also on China. That was not the case. As Vice President of the United States at the time, I could hardly recall Joe Biden having a strong stance on speaking up or protecting human rights, especially for those people living in countries who don't have a government willing to defend its own people. For Trump, the earlier part of his administration looks chaotic, and it resembles more like The Apprentice reality show than what a superpower should look like. That said, I believe a lot of the American people will still give their vote of confidence to Trump to serve and lead in part 2 of his presidency. 4 years is way too short, and work still remains to be done. Again, this is strictly an analysis from the perspective of a trader who sits in Hong Kong, and opinions made are not meant to be conclusive, and some will strongly disagree with me. I believe with Mike Pence as Vice President, Mike Pompeo as Secretary of State, and Trump steering the ship, though not perfect, could turn out to be good for the world stage. Trump might have already turned global politics upside down, but with Xi Jinping as Emperor forever and a global ambition of dominating the world stage, an unconventional US president might not be a bad thing after all, some sort of a counterbalance. During the social movement of last year in Hong Kong, the American flag had been raised by the demonstrators as a symbol of freedom and hope. Under the NSL, Hong Kong is not free anymore, and its people are imprisoned and suppressed by tyranny. The Trump administration have been sharp critics of Communist China and have been consistently vocal on the human rights conditions of Hong Kong people and elsewhere. The US sanctions on the 10 Hong Kong officials mean they are serious and will act on injustice and violation of human rights. It reminds Hong Kong people that they are not forgotten. Well, so much about Hong Kong and our fight. I wish the US registered voters will make the right decision for their next president of the United States.